it up. It's the Record Machine with your host, Jimmy Hall.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome singer-songwriter Pamela Ruby Russell to the program.
Hello, Jimmy.
How you doing, Pamela?
I'm fine. I've been pacing around going, okay, is it too early to call? Is it too early to call? You know, so anyway, I'm here. Hi.
That's awesome. Well, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I was a little nervous, and then I said, wait a minute. I'm really looking forward to talking to you.
Where are we calling from today?
I live outside Boston, between Providence and Boston.
Oh, nice. Red Sox fan?
Excuse me?
Are you a Red Sox fan?
I better be. I have Red Sox on.
Oh, okay.
I mean, if we're doing a video, I'd show you.
Mm-hmm. Well, most people who live in Boston are Red Sox fans and Patriots fans for the football.
Well, you know, I'm not a big sports person, to be honest with you. I can't tell you who's on what team. I liked Pappy. He's gone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I'm not a follower per se. I mean, I want a town to do well because it's good for the morale and it's good for business.
Of course.
And it's good for the kids to have people to look up to. So
true. Is that where you grew up?
In Boston? No, I grew up actually, well, my dad was in the Army, so as a small, young child, I lived in army bases all over the country.
Oh, wow.
And I even lived in an old gas station, a converted gas station in Devil's Elbow, Missouri.
Wow. Sounds
In
scary.
Well, I don't remember it. All I know is my dad used to tell this story that my mom and I would go swimming in this water hole, and my father would have to stand there with a shotgun to shoot off the water moccasins.
Wow.
I don't remember it. It's a good tale.
Now, growing up, were you around music? Is that how you got involved in music?
I got involved in music. I had a grandmother who was very cultured. She was very intelligent. She was very soft-spoken. She was brilliant, and she loved fine music. And once a month, she would take me. I was very lucky. She would take me to the ballet or the opera or the symphony when I was a little girl.
Mm-hmm.
I'd take the train into New York City, and she'd take me somewhere, and then we'd go and have an ice cream sundae. And then she'd put me back on the train. And that was not every month, but for a lot. And I was very blessed. And so I grew up loving costumes and music and music, I had piano lessons when I was 8 years old for 2 years. I had a piano so that kind of gave me a good basis. And then I got into the Beatles and all those people.
How old were you when you first wrote a song?
Wow. Well, I wrote poetry as early as I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
I had a learning disability when I was little.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know I was dyslexic, and I had ADD, so I couldn't really learn, the way they were teaching. And I very luckily ended up having this teacher who saw that I learned differently. People learn orally, they learn visually, they have the tactile sense of learning. And I guess, I don't know what mine is, but anyway, the teacher figured it out. And he would give me projects to write about.
Mm-hmm.
He'd say, "What's your favorite? What do you love?" And I loved trains because we lived across the street from a train track and freight trains. So I would go to sleep every night, like 3:00 in the morning, because I had to count the freight trains when they went by. And so I wrote about trains, and my mother helped me contact all the big train companies on the East Coast, and they sent me pictures and brochures and everything, and I put together this huge, I would think I was in 5th grade or 4th grade or something, but I put together this huge thing of photographs of trains, and then I actually wrote about them, and in my messy scrawl. I'd give anything to have that now.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But I got into writing. I got into writing as soon as I learned to read. I didn't learn to read right away because I had a really hard time learning.
Mm-hmm.
But once I did, I was reading a book a day and I was writing. So
that's pretty cool. I believe every artist is influenced by someone. Who is some of yours?
I loved Tim Buckley. I thought he was wonderful. I liked Nina Simone.
Mm-hmm. John Lennon.
I liked the Beatles, of course.
Who doesn't like John Lennon, right?
And that's a given. I even liked the early Stones.
Yeah,
they were basically taking black music and making it, okay for white kids to listen to. Well, I guess Pat Boone did that a little earlier, but Well, let's see. When I was a kid, we had a jukebox in the basement. My dad was into collecting, machines. And so we had this old Sebring jukebox, and it was beautiful. It had mirrors and flashing lights, and it was wonderful. And so a couple of my I didn't have a lot of friends when I was a kid because I was very shy, but a couple of friends of mine would come over, and we would just listen to 45s for hours and hours.
I love vinyl.
Yeah, we have a pretty big collection of it, actually.
Yeah, me too.
I just love records. I love the act of putting a record on, the ritual of cleaning it, of, sort of making sure there's no dust. And it's a ritual. It's a ritual. You don't just throw a record on, you take care of it.
Right. You love the sound of that crackle when you first put the needle on. It's the best sound, right?
It's nothing like it.
Sounds so much better than a compressed file, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I've had this fantasy of putting out a record, a real record. I've been doing some recording and finishing up old songs and sort of rearranging and remastering some. Mm-hmm. And I have this fantasy of actually getting an engineer to put them through some preamps and a couple of tubes and see if I could get a vinyl sound, because so much that is recorded now, it's all digital, which is okay. I mean, it makes music and music making so much more accessible to so many more people, which I think is great. I think making music is a hell of a lot better than making war.
Of course.
But yeah. So I have mixed feelings about the digital world, having come, being older and having come from, records. One of my first jobs when I got out of school was I became cassette buyer when cassettes had just come out. So I'm dating myself. And so one of my first jobs was a cassette buyer at a place called the Record Hunter on 42nd Street and 5th Avenue. I don't know if you remember that or you're old enough to remember that. Mm-hmm. But, man, that was the most awesome record store. It was beautiful. And I loved it, I loved being around, music constantly, hearing it, people coming in, turning people on to new music.
Any of your songs on vinyl?
No. Well, wait, let me think. No, and I want them to be. That's why I'm sort of thinking about it. I'm trying to price out how I would do it. Optimally, I'd find somebody else to put some money up and go jump in it with me. But, I through my life, I've realized, no, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to pay my way. Then I don't owe anybody anything. So really try to figure it out myself.
When you write a song, what's the process like?
Well, I have several. I just went to I'm also a photographer, but I just went to a photo exhibit of a friend of mine, a photographer named Lou Jones. He's wonderful. I'm name dropping. He's famous. But he did this show on hypnagogic music. Hypnagogic photography and hypnopompic. And I had never heard those words before. And I realized that's how I write. So hypnagogic, or gogic, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, is the state between falling asleep, being awake and falling asleep just before you go to bed, Mm-hmm. And hypnopompic is when you wake up, but you're not awake yet. So you're just kind of drifting into wakefulness. And for me, if I get it together, and I actually commit to it, I make myself begin writing when I'm like half asleep.
Wow.
Either from dreams. So that's one place if I'm doing lyrics. But other times I'll sit at my piano. I get very little sleep. I'm sort of not an insomniac, but I like to be awake at night. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's an insomniac. But duh. But yeah, the rest of the world's missing it all. But yeah, so I'll sit at my piano and just start drifting. And if I find myself coming on something that I like, I'll work on it for a little while and sort of figure out what I'm doing, maybe write down the notes, and then play it over and over. Maybe turn on a voice memo or I always liked doing. I used to have this boom box. Mm-hmm. Now I'm really dating myself. I used to have this boombox, and it had no compression. So you'd get a great sound. I think the best vocal track I ever did and ever got of myself singing was on an old boombox, because it just caught the room ambiance. It caught me perfectly. It didn't compress me. It was wonderful. So, but anyway, so that's what I do. I just sit at the piano and drift and see where I go. And I actually wrote something to read to you. I was thinking about what was important to me and what I wanted to say to your audience, or not so much what I wanted to say to your audience, but what I needed to say for myself to help me focus for this interview. So I wrote this thing down on a credit card bill. Okay. I feel like the little things, the unexpected and new that are coming into my life now are life-changing. Feeling gratitude and being present, not missing signposts and people, glances, words. It's all important. And because life is short.
Right.
So that's what I wanted to say. Yeah, I just sat down and scribbled it. I wish we were doing a video, because then I could show you. It's a scribble. But I just, I realize that sometimes I get nervous because I feel like, I'm not good enough, or people are going to find out I'm a fake, or, it's called the imposter syndrome, and a lot of artists have it. And so I realized, well, wait a minute. No, all you can do is show up and be who you are.
Right.
And, the people who try to be something they're not, they screw up.
Right.
Because you can't keep living a lie.
No.
And so I realized, well, I need to say this. I need to tell people that, where I write from, where I create from, it's important to me. And I because I feel like I don't want my time on this planet to be wasted. I want to leave something that's meaningful and is going to do something positive. And I want people to I want to let people know that they can do that too.
Exactly. This podcast is going to feature two of your songs, Love's Calling and
cool.
And Sounds of the Sea. What's the story behind the songs?
Well, okay. So Sounds of the Sea, I used to live in Mexico. And I've lived in the Caribbean, and I've lived in Mexico. I sort of would disappear from my life for a while and just go. I originally went to Mexico for 10 days, and I stayed almost a year.
Nice.
So, but, I met a guy at a cantina in the middle of the night. And he was this really fascinating fellow, and he stole my heart. And he didn't steal it, I gave it. But I knew that I really wanted to go back to the States and do my music. And he had asked me to go with him to California. He was driving from Puerto Vallarta up to L.A. And I said, well, I'll go part way. And I went to Baja with him, took a ferry, met a circus, ended up riding an elephant in their circus in Baja. And then I went back to Puerto Vallarta, and he went to L.A. And we wrote to each other for years, but never reconnected, and I got married to someone else. But when I was in Mexico, when I went back to Mexico, I started writing the lyrics on the ferry back to Puerto Vallarta. And I ended up, I was friends with this group of musicians, Mexican musicians, and I used to, sometimes go on stage and sing, backup with them, or, they were good friends. I didn't know anybody that spoke English when I was in Mexico. All my friends were Mexican, and I liked it like that. And I just started writing it. And then a couple of the musicians said, well, what kind of music do you want with this? And I said, well, I want it to be typical. I wanted it to sound authentic. So they started teaching me rhythms on the guitar, like Andean rhythms, and so I learned two, and I used them in the song. And I actually have a recording of me playing this Sounds of the Sea with this group of musicians. We were just hanging out in a friend's living room, and they were playing pan flutes and charango and, a guitar thing called the tiple, which is I think it has 12 strings, but it's not a guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds beautiful, and I wish I had recorded it down there with them. But I ended up, when I came back to the States, I ended up deciding to put it on my CD. And I was working with a fellow named Peter Kalo, who's Carly Simon's guitarist, among other people. And so we arranged it. And then I got a friend of mine who was one of the foremost flautists in Bolivia, and his father wrote the Bolivian national anthem, actually. And so I got him to play on it, and some other people. And it's very dear to me. When I lived in Mexico, I was living far away from any tourists. I was living across the river, and from my bedroom window, I could see the women washing their clothes on the rocks.
Wow.
And I'd go down and hang out with them sometimes. And my best friend lived in a shack with a metal roof and a dirt floor and one light bulb hanging. And her best shoes were flip-flops.
Wow.
And so the people, I love Mexico. I love the country. I love the people that I met. I have so much respect. So that's where Sounds of the Sea came from.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as Love's Calling, that I wrote a long time ago. And I originally recorded it with a fellow named Richard Viard. He's from France, and he lives here. And I'm actually his son's godmother. And so we recorded that originally with William Garrett, at a place called Mission Control, which belonged to Michael Johnson. And then I hooked up with a fellow named Mario Gill in Miami, who I adore. He's an amazing arranger, composer, producer. And so we started to rework that song some. And I decided to release it. I had never released it. It wasn't on any it had never been played on the radio. It had never been formally released on a recording.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where that came from. And that was written about a romance too.
Wow.
Boy.
Very cool.
For a rather young man. And I won't go any further.
Ooh. Saving that for the book, huh?
Yes.
Maybe. Gonna do a tell-all someday?
Nah. Yeah. I mean, when you write a song, I don't know about other writers, but when I get inspired by something, it doesn't really mean that it's all about a certain situation or a certain person. It just means that was the impetus, and it kind of tuned me into whatever was floating around in the air.
It's inspiration.
And whatever I was able to be open to. I mean, I really feel like anybody can write lyrics or poems or a book or anything. You just have to be committed to being present, sit down, and capturing what comes in.
Yes.
And being willing to do the craft and work it and edit it. And, it's another skill. And I was lucky to have people around me early on who were good at that skill. Mm-hmm. So they guided.
That's pretty cool.
Same thing with photography.
Very cool. Growing up, I went to a lot of concerts, and the most memorable one for me was seeing The Who perform Tommy in its entirety, plus their greatest hits. I understand you were at Woodstock. What was that experience like?
I was at Woodstock, and it was amazing. And I wish that it were possible for people to experience that again. Maybe the people who were in New York City recently and heard John Baptiste and the huge concert that happened, maybe they experienced something like it, because I think that went off without a hitch and people were pretty happy. Mm-hmm. But Woodstock, what was it like? It was freedom. It was people being able to express themselves without judgment. And luckily, I don't think there was any violence. I think we made it work. People helped each other. I was a water bearer. I would go up the hill, go up and get water and bring it back down and give water to people. That's what I did.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Did you meet any rock stars while you were there?
I probably did. It turns out an old friend of mine who I actually grew up with and didn't find out I grew up with him until I had already dated him, and we ended our romance and became best friends. I discovered that he was at Woodstock, and he helped build the stage. The Grateful Dead were performing on another stage. And he helped them build the stage and hung out with them instead of going to hear the rest of the music.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. I didn't even know they were there. But I heard a lot of great music. I heard Jimi Hendrix on New Year's Eve at the Fillmore. Mm-hmm. I heard Janis Joplin play twice. I heard her play in the beginning of her career, her performing career in New York. She performed at Flushing Meadows, the old World's Fair. Mm-hmm. And she actually opened up for the Hang On Sloopy people.
Oh, the Real McCoys?
Real McCoys.
Or the McCoys. Yeah,
the Real McCoys. Yeah.
if they were a band now, maybe they'd call themselves the Real McCoys. I don't know, but I think they were called the McCoys back then, right?
McCoys, yeah.
Yeah, Hang On Sloopy.
And I saw the Stones. I had an amazing time at the Stones concert. As a Stones concert in the 70s. That was incredible. I had just come back from the Caribbean. I'd been living on a little island for like a couple of years. And came back and I was brown as can be and hair white as could be and just, sunburned eyes. And somebody handed me the very day I came back, somebody handed me a ticket to a Rolling Stone concert and said, "Hey, I'll give you a ride into Boston, but you're going to have to hang out." So I had to go find a place to hang out by myself. They didn't tell me why, but I assumed they were getting high or something. And so I got to the Stones concert, and I was a little up there, shall we say. Mm-hmm. And I was walking around out around the, I went up to my seat and said, "Man, I can't see anything up here." So I walked all the way down to the basement, wandering around with my little ticket in my hands and my bright red skirt. And I knocked on a door, and this guy opened the door, and he said he was wearing a waiter's outfit, and he had a glass of champagne in his hand. And he said, "Oh, have I a seat for you?" And he walked me right out to the floor of the Boston Garden, sat me down front row center.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
It was very cool. So,
you recently wrote a piece about the anniversary of Woodstock. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of cool because I did get my picture in one of the major publications about the concert, the festival. Mm-hmm. And I was, what, Eric? Oh, yeah, Rolling Stone. Yeah, magazine. Rolling Stone magazine did a special edition, editor's edition, and I'm kind of the centerfold.
Nice.
A picture of me with a few other people on the Groovy Way. Mm-hmm. And I later discovered who took the photo, and I contacted him after searching for a few years, and he sent me a signed print of the photo, which was wonderful. And he's recently passed away. Baron Woolman.
Sorry to hear that.
Well, everybody's sorry to hear it. He was one of the foremost rock photographers. So.
Wow.
Look up. Hey, shush, Bailey. Look up Baron Woolman. Wolman. His work is spectacular and very iconic. He's up there with Annie Leibovitz.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we were supposed to, we were going to meet, and I called him and said, "Hey, I'm coming to Santa Fe," because a friend of mine was getting married in Madrid, a wild hippie town outside Santa Fe. And Baron said, "Well, sorry, I'm leaving. I'm leaving for the airport right now. It's Woodstock weekend. I'm going out to Bethel, New York."
Nice.
So we crossed paths, So I didn't get to meet him, but I did talk to him on the phone, and we emailed a lot, which was great. Nice man.
And the piece that you wrote is called Woodstock 1969 and Beyond, right?
Yes.
That's very cool. Do you remember a lot from that concert?
Well, I remember waking up to Jimi Hendrix. It was. I do remember once. I really didn't get stoned there.
Uh-huh.
I've never been super into drugs, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I took some hallucinogens occasionally, but I was never into hard drugs. I was never into just getting messed up. I really like being present, and I guess I did like mushrooms, but admit that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you could say whatever you want. I'm
shiitake are wonderful, especially when you saute them with a little garlic and white wine.
I like mushrooms on my steak. A little gravy and.
Oh Jesus! Anyway, so do I remember anything? Yeah, I remember being wonderful and hearing amazing music and just I remember patches because I was so tired. I trying to stay up and not miss anything, and the rain was definitely a challenge. I'm a double Virgo. I don't like getting dirty. Mm-hmm. I borrowed somebody's pants, and of course they were white because mine were soaked, my jeans. So, yeah, I remember.
Besides music, I understand that you enjoy photography as well. What are some things you like to photograph?
Good question. I like to photograph anything that moves me. I look at photography as the same way I look at songwriting. If something grabs me, I want to capture it. You've probably looked at some of my pictures. I think you have looked at pictures of mine on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
I occasionally I do photo shoots for other artists, or I've done a couple of weddings. It's not my favorite at all. Mm-hmm. I wish everybody a happy wedding, but I don't want to feel like I have to capture something.
Right.
I really like photographing dogs.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm a real dog lover. I love dogs. This past 2 summers, I've been raising monarch butterflies, and so I was doing a lot of photography, bug photography, I guess they call it, but I was sort of turning them into little fine art pieces. Mm-hmm. I got very emotionally involved with my chrysalides and my caterpillars and my... I'm a little weird. I'm not a bug photographer, but I love butterflies. You
like to capture nature?
Some, yeah.
Right?
I mean, I do landscape, I do seaside, I photograph people. I photograph whatever moves me. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I started with a camera very early on. I think my most important photograph I ever took was my first photograph I ever took. And that was my mother handing me a Christmas present. She had just given me a camera for Christmas. And I just put the film in it. And I just wound it. And then as I looked up, my mother handed me another present. And I had the presence of mind to snap a picture. Mm-hmm. And to me, that was the most important photo I ever took.
I mentioned earlier about a book. You ever think about publishing a book with all your photography?
Yeah, with writings. I'm sort of doing that. I'm experimenting right now. I started a blog, and I'm trying to write once a month in it.
Okay.
And I don't really publicize it because, sometimes I get political. Sometimes I get political. Sometimes I get, maudlin. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I love that word, maudlin. So wonderful. Some words just, they express what they really are. So I'm sort of experimenting with that, just seeing how I do with that. I've actually written quite a few stories and memoirs and things. I use one of my apps on my computer as sort of a filing system, and every time I write something that I think, oh, I might want to hold on to this, even on Facebook, I'll copy it and put it into the app. And so I probably will turn that into some kind of publication. If I do it, I'll publish it myself. But I do love to write.
That would be pretty cool. If your life was a movie, what would be the title and who would play you?
Oh, wow. Oh, well, I'd love Meryl Streep. I mean, I just love her humor.
Mm-hmm.
I love the depth of her soul, the depth of her heart, the vastness of her heart, the profoundness of her soul. Definitely Meryl Streep. But now, what would it be called? She Meant Well.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
I tell my friends when I'm ready to leave this place, because we don't know where we really are going to go if we go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sort of a little bit of a cynic, but my husband's an astrologer, and he believes that there's something else, and so he's always telling me. Oh, his name is Eric Linter, by the way. He's really good.
Cool.
Check him out. Linter, like winter with an L. But he's always telling me, oh, you have to realize that when you sever the mortal coil, you're actually going on to somewhere else, and you and there's karma and everything, and I there must be karma, because I've had really bad things happen to me in my life,
mm-hmm.
which I've had to survive and grow from,
mm-hmm.
and I've had really good things happen to me, which I've learned to be more grateful for. But she meant well. I think intention's really important. So
yeah, it's a cool title.
I may not always do well,
but you meant well.
But I mean well.
That's pretty cool. What's the best piece of advice you received from another musician?
Listen.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
It's a hard one for me. I told you I have ADD, so my brain is always, and being basically a little insecure, I'm always jumping ahead. Mm-hmm. I'm being very careful not to interrupt you, so forgive me. I jump ahead. My mind is always going, and something will come to my mind, and people will be talking, and I will be like, but wait, and I'll sort of jump in, and they kind of look at me like, I was talking. So that's something I have to, I have to work on. I'll probably always have to work on it, because I'm an excitable girl.
Do you have a website you'd like to promote?
I do. It's www.Pamela, Pamela, Ruby, Ruby, like the stone, Russell, Russell.com. My music is on Spotify, and I'm going to be putting some more tunes on my website, also on iTunes and whatever, Amazon, et cetera. I hope that people check out, I have a CD called Highway of Dreams, mm-hmm. which I co-produced with Peter Kalo a bunch of years ago. And that was such a labor of love. I mean, I basically financed the whole thing, and it's a seriously professional recording, and I'm very proud of it. And I've been doing some recording along the way, and starting to release individual songs. So I have one called Space and Time, which I'm really fond of. Mm-hmm. I really love it, and I worked on that with the fellow Mario Gill. It was wonderful, and he's been very kind to me. Plus, I've been doing some writing. A couple years ago, I did some writing and recording with a fellow named Andy Pratt, and so we have yet to finish. We did a couple of tunes, and I want to finish those. So, I'm working on a song now, recording. I just have to do the vocals and it'll be done. And I love the lyrics.
Is there anything that you'd like to mention that we haven't talked about today?
Yeah, I want to thank you for giving me this
you're welcome.
Opportunity to bare my soul. You never know what to say. I mean, I don't think about what to say. I was getting nervous, and Eric, my darling, said to me, Pamela, just say what's on your mind.
Mm-hmm.
So I did.
Well, I had a great time chatting with you. I think you're great. I think you're a very interesting woman.
Well, I didn't ask you any questions. It was all about me.
Well, that's the idea.
Oh, I know. I did forget something. Excuse me.
Sure.
Oh my gosh. So I'm on a compilation which I absolutely love. A fellow named Joe Viglione put it together, and it's called the Boston Rock and Roll Anthology, Chapter 21. And two of my songs are one called Space and Time. That's the second cut on the compilation. And then number 15 on the compilation is my song Walk Through Fire.
Nice.
And I love that song. It's one of my favorites. And there are a lot of other artists on the compilation. It's Joe has been doing these compilations, I think, almost every year of music out of Boston. And I'm really excited to be on it. I just think it's a great collection of very talented artists. So I do want to mention that and tell people to look for it. Boston Rock and Roll Anthology, number 21.
Can you get that on your site?
It's not on my site yet. I got to put it on there. It should be. Thank you. And I believe it's on Spotify, and it's on Mixcloud, and it's on what else is it on? But you can hear the two songs on my website, and you actually get to listen to them for free. Or you can go to Spotify and maybe I'll get a few cents.
Yeah, I heard it's tough to make money on Spotify, so.
I haven't figured it out. I really want people to hear my music. It's like, if a bird sings in the forest, does anybody hear the bird singing? And I sort of feel like that. I worked so hard over the years to become a skilled songwriter, and I think I'm an okay singer, And I feel like unless you're selling merchandise and performing for big venues, it's a challenge. So I just want people to hear the music, and then if they want to buy my CD or whatever, I'd be so grateful. I'd be grateful. And I think it's important for listeners to support musicians, because if you want to keep hearing good music, people have to eat.
Right. Yep.
Even musicians.
Word of mouth.
Pizza gets old.
Spread the word, right?
Exactly.
Got to spread the word,
No, I really want to feel like what I do and say is constructive and productive and does some good. And this COVID thing of being in our house and separated and everything, it's really made it very, very obvious to me that human contact and conversation is key.
Well, Pamela, I want to thank you again for coming on the show, and like I said, let's stay in touch. And next time you got something else coming out in the future, you want to promote it, reach out, and we'll love to have you back on.
Thank you. As I said, I'm finishing up a new song. Well, yeah, it's a new song. And I have a couple others that I'm finishing up, and I'm trying to decide if I'm going to put it on a vinyl. I'm thinking like an EP vinyl. I don't know if that's practical or not, but I really want to put out a record.
Nice.
Yes.
I'll send you a link to a company that makes one and done vinyls if you want.
Ooh, okay. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, you could send them the files that you want, and they could make as many as people order. It doesn't have to be a set amount.
Oh, you mean like on demand?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
I hadn't looked it up yet. I'd heard that was actually possible. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I'll send you the link, and I'll send you the link through email in a little bit.
That'd be wonderful. The thing is, the one thing I miss most is, it's been years since I guess people are putting out records again, but album art.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you have a copy of my CD or not, but I did a lot of artwork in it and a lot of, making sure the lyrics were big enough so everybody could read them.
Mm-hmm.
And I put my photographs in it. I had a whole booklet, really nice booklet for my CD, Highway of Dreams. And I realized, I wish I'd put this out on a record because the art, it's nice, and the photographs are nice. And I want people to be able to see them and not just see little thumbnails.
Yeah, well, you might be able to do that now if you want to, try that place out, give it a shot,
Yeah, I people have been telling me I should, put a new song on it and call it a new release.
Or do a stripped down version of one of the songs that are on there already.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
We'll
have to talk some more. You got good ideas.
All right. Well, like I said,
Thank you.
I had a great time chatting with you, and let's stay in touch. All right.
You bet.
All right. You take care.
You got my number.
Yeah, I do.
You got and we're friends on Facebook, so
exactly. Yep. So you can message me anytime you want. All right.
You got it.
All right. You take care now.
Thank you, Jimmy. You take care of yourself and stay well and stay happy.
All right. Likewise.
It's about joy.
Exactly. Bye-bye.
Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Walk from the mountains down to the sea. The river carries secrets. She keeps